What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is the top 25 skylines in North America. Didn't we do this video?
We did 2022.
I think we did like 2019.
Oh.
We're doing 2023 today, so it's an updated version. It wasn't actually too long ago. I'd probably say a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago.
I think it was 2nd of January, if I remember rightly.
That is very spot on if you've remembered rightly.
I think I did because I did cheat. Though I looked before.
Oh, so not if you remember rightly. if you looked rightly.
Videos.
You did actually. So it's an updated version from Geography King, which is going to be awesome because one, it's going to refresh us because we lost in GeoGuessr because we forgot what the Texas skyline looks like. Didn't we? That was something what happened yesterday. It's still sore. It is still sore. And skylines will have changed a little bit maybe.
Yeah.
So we're going to act like we haven't seen these before. We're going to give you our opinion looking at these. Boom. Again, New York, we're going to have opinion looking at the images he gives and what we got. Even though we've been there. You know what I mean?
Not in 2023 though.
We haven't been there in 2023. Have you been at any of these places in 2023? Let us know in the comments below. We've just done our Patreon only live stream as well, haven't we?
We have.
Check out Patreon. We do that every single month, half an hour of a Patreon only. I think we had about 10 people in there, which was awesome.
Yeah.
A lot more interaction with you absolute legends.
And they know that tomorrow I am doing a Patreon live stream cooking video.
Yeah, you are.
Baking, technically.
So if you join Patreon, any tier can get access to that.
And I'm definitely doing it because I've promised them.
Yeah,
I can't let them down. So it's
New York
happening.
cheesecake, which
New
will be a
York
video
cheesecake
eventually.
Plus mini egg cornflake cakes.
There you go. So check out Patreon. We'd really appreciate it. Are you ready for the 25 skylines in North America?
Yes.
From Geography King. Let's go. Howdy.
It's Kyle.
Is it?
Howdy, it's Kyle, counting down the top 25 skylines in North America. I believe a skyline is a very important part of a city. It's the first impression for a visitor. It can often be a source of pride for people who live there.
Yeah.
And in this video, I'm going to count down the top 25 ones on the continent. I did a video like this about 4 years ago, and since then there have been many new high-rises go up, and many of the skylines have changed as a result. So I did want to update the video based on that, and also my opinions have changed a little bit on a few of them. So let's take a look at the top 25 skylines in North America. Starting off at number 25 is Detroit. Most of the high-rises in the city are pretty old, and there hasn't been a big change to the skyline in many years. There is a big new high-rise project going on, and there will be a big new bridge as well, so that will change the skyline, but for right now, it's just okay. Charlotte is a city that's been growing a lot, and there have been a lot of new high-rises going up.
Okay.
I was just there recently, and there was another one that was just about being completed.
It's different. There's a big contrast between like the old school buildings and then the newer builds.
That gives me Empire State Building vibes.
It does a little bit. I can see what you mean.
With the
Yeah, but there's not many new builds, but you can stand out the ones there is, isn't there? Like there, and there. And then there's just suddenly a bit, but I like that. You know what I mean? A bit of history in there.
So this skyline is much newer than what we just saw with Detroit, but in this case, I think newer is better.
Yeah.
Monterey is the third largest city in Mexico. It's in the state of Nuevo León, not very far from the border with Texas. And this is arguably the most modern city in the country. It's been growing a lot of new companies going there, and the skyline has changed as a result.
Oh, wow.
And I do love how interesting this skyline is. There isn't a huge cluster of buildings, but they tend to follow a line that goes along the topography. In general, Mexican cities are not known for having grand skylines, but I do like Monterey's. Edmonton, Alberta is the first of several in Canada where it really is a much larger skyline than you would think for the city. The metro area for Edmonton is just over 1 million people, but the skyline makes it look like it's much larger than that. A more densely clustered downtown, maybe a little more of a heat island effect there to stay warm during those winters. Yeah, it's still really cold. Minneapolis is the larger of the two twin cities, and I do think it has the better skyline of the two. There's some really nice architecture with some of these buildings, and the flat landscape around it makes it really stand out a lot more. And the Minneapolis skyline has more high-rises from the past 50 years than most other cities in the Midwest and the Northeast because the Twin Cities didn't have the same type of economic decline in the 50s and 60s like many of the more industrial cities in the area felt.
So it's just been progressing.
Perhaps the most disappointing skyline in relation to the size of the city is Los Angeles.
That's nice.
And a lot of it is seismic concerns, but
I thought it to be more than that.
Yeah, I get what he means, disappointing for the size, but
But the mountains are stunning in the back.
Is that the skyline though? I guess it is. It's part of it, isn't it?
Well, I'd say the skyline is everything you can see on that picture.
Definitely.
Because it's what you see, isn't it?
But for such a big place, I completely agree. You're expecting kind of loads of them, some really modern ones. I know obviously
Especially
that's very modern.
for a place that is considered very famous, very
Definitely,
rich, very powerful. But
although I love a skyscraper, they're not always pleasant on the eye. Not always. I do love one, but if you have too many, they can be a bit. You know what I mean? Just like So I think it might be
it's a bit of both, yeah.
More of it is
our
because
opinion.
downtown has never really
That's
been
nice.
the prime neighborhood in the city. And because the metro area is so large, you have several other central business districts throughout the metro, so no one area has all the big cluster of high-rises, and downtown LA really isn't super impressive based on the size of the city. Montreal, Quebec is a city that has height restrictions on its high-rises. The tallest ones cannot exceed the height of Mount Royal, where most of the good photos of the skyline are taken from. But despite none of the buildings being super tall, the overall skyline does look really nice, especially taken from the top of Mount Royal. But
I
just
do like
know
a
that
tall
your
one,
thighs
though,
will be
minus
on
points.
fire by the time you get to the top of the mountain to take these photos. Houston does have a nice skyline, but kind of like LA, it isn't well representative of just how big the city is.
Yeah.
To me, there's no one building downtown that really stands out as a really cool building. So from an architectural standpoint, I don't think Houston's is really one of the best, but there is a large number of high-rises and a lot of big companies downtown. But in my opinion, Austin's skyline is better. You don't have the same number of high-rises in Austin, and many of them aren't super tall, but the architecture, I think, is much more interesting.
Look at that.
It's almost like it's not been slotted together.
Yeah, it's just cantilevering a little bit, isn't it, both sides? But like when you've been playing Jenga for too long and the tower is just kind of like completely got. I like it though. It's something different.
Interesting. So Austin already has a really cool skyline, and there are a couple of new really interesting buildings going up right now that will make the skyline look even better.
Okay.
Next up, Cincinnati, a city with a much more established
bridge
downtown.
always helps.
It looks
I like
Lego.
the architecture and the density of downtown. I really like the PNC Tower, which is that white clock tower looking one, and the Great America Tower, which is the tallest one over to the right.
Okay.
So not only do I really like downtown Cincinnati, I think
like
the skyline looks
London
really good as well.
Vibes.
But bridge a little bit, yeah. And then I mean, very modern building there. A bit of an old school one as well.
But I like the contrast.
It's a good contrast, isn't it?
Another city with a really impressive skyline relative to its size is Calgary, Alberta, a few hours south of Edmonton.
Okay.
So a really dense cluster of high-rises for a metro of only about 1.25 million
There's a
people.
lot there.
So that puts it in the same size range in the U.S. as, say, Memphis and Louisville, who are not going to be in this video. So Calgary showing why density downtown matters. Miami has another skyline that has been changing quite a bit recently.
Spread out, but
there are a lot of new high-rises going up, most of which are residential condo high-rises. But you also have some business and mixed-use stuff going on right downtown.
Okay.
So a lot of population growth in Miami and the region in general, and the skyline has been growing and changing a lot as well. Denver is another city that has seen a lot of growth, and there's been a lot of new high-rises downtown as well. Definitely. I've always liked that iconic high-rise that has the weird top. I think they call it the cash register building sometimes.
Oh, I can see that. It kind of does look like
it does look like a cash
I mean, we call it a till, don't we?
Yeah.
But it definitely, I can kind of see that when a kid's got a little play set.
Yeah.
And I like that with a baseball stadium as well. I think if you can get sports in there, I think it's going to make it look better, isn't it?
Sure, but when I think of Denver, I think about the high-rise with the weird top. And this is another one where, kind of like Austin, you come back in about 10 years and it'll probably be a lot higher on this list.
Okay. It'd be interesting.
I think Boston has a very classy skyline. None of the individual skyscrapers are super tall, but I think it's fitting for a very historic city.
That looks
I think Boston's skyline shows that it isn't just about height or density, because there are obviously buildings that are taller and downtowns that are more densely clustered, but I think it is just very fitting for the city and how it all comes together. It looks like a really nice skyline. And kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum from Boston is Dallas. Dallas has more really tall high-rises, and they light up at night, so it has more of a flashy look.
Yeah.
And although I do like Dallas's skyline, and I have it ranked high on this list, but I think a lot of it is because of how it lights up at night.
Yeah.
But just like the other cities in Texas, many new high-rises are going up, and you'll probably see Dallas move up a list like this in coming years.
More lights, so
I like skyline that's quite a bit different than the rest is Honolulu. And yes, I know that Honolulu isn't part of the North American continent, but I'm including it here anyway.
Definitely.
And unlike most of the other skylines in this video, most of these high-rises are either hotels or condos.
It's stunning.
And I love the look of all the really light-colored buildings, which is
I
very
like the fact that
fitting
they
for
all
a
look
tropical
like they're
set.
meant to be there. Like, they all look like it's just so matchy-matchy.
No, definitely. There's no unique ones. It's just that.
And the colours aren't extreme. It's all, and I like it.
And the sea colour's magnificent. I know that's not a skyline, but the sea colour is magnificent.
But it does add to the
picture, the eye. And one day we will go on holiday there. We will.
Setting. Probably the best skyline for the juxtaposition of the old and new is Philadelphia.
Ooh, very small
With Independence Hall and a lot of old buildings right downtown and some beautiful new high-rises as well. And I love the newest skyscraper
They
there. I
match
can't
as
be the
well.
only
Yeah.
one that thinks it looks like a shotgun standing on its base or perhaps an arm flipping
I
off
like
New
it.
Jersey across the river. Either way, that's
You're saying that sounds like an arm flipping off New Jersey. I do rate that.
as Philly as it gets. Another fast-growing city with a lot of new high-rises
that.
is Seattle.
The
And
needle,
of course,
isn't
the
it?
Space Needle is going to stand out, and you can have Mount Rainier in the background. But even in photos where the Space Needle is not featured, it's still a very impressive skyline. But for as many high-rises as have gone up in downtown Seattle, there could still be a few more for housing.
Okay.
Perhaps the strangest choice for this video is fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada.
Why not?
And I
though?
just love the ridiculousness of this skyline.
It's just
It-
You have all these
spectacular, isn't it?
crazy-looking buildings. You have a fake Eiffel Tower, a fake Empire State
I like the
Building.
pond.
There's a Space Needle-looking thing. There's always one of these getting blown up, another one going up to replace it. So certainly by no means a traditional skyline, but nonetheless, I think it still looks pretty cool,
It's
especially
unique,
at
innit?
night.
Yeah.
Certainly one of my favorite and perhaps
That
the
is
most
nice.
photogenic skyline in the country is
That's what you'd
Pittsburgh.
have on a canvas.
The CBD is a
Reminds me of a little
squeeze
castle that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's like a little castle, a glazed castle skyscraper.
Yeah.
onto that
pretty.
peninsula, just sitting there posing for all the photos on top of the mountains nearby. And tight geography like that leads to dense construction like this. And that makes for a very nice
like it. I
skyline.
really like
And
it.
Pittsburgh really isn't that big of a city, so for it to be ranked this high on the
a bit
list
of an
is
island
a
as
good
well.
testament to just how cool that geography is. San Francisco, kind of like Seattle, has a lot of new high-rises. They can use a few more as well. For the longest time, the iconic pyramid was the tallest high-rise in town, but the newer Salesforce Tower towers over it.
So they're
Most
growing
of the
then.
CBD is full, and most of the new high-rises are being built south and east of downtown. And don't be surprised if in 20 years the Tenderloin District has several shiny new residential high-rises. Vancouver is kind of a mix
there's a lot
between
there.
There's a
Pittsburgh
lot
and
going on in that
Honolulu.
picture.
The tight space essentially requires that density be high and that many high-rises be built. And just like Honolulu
Oh.
and Miami,
Look at, I mean,
that.
there's so much going on. I don't know if I like it or if it is just so much going on, but that's twisting, isn't it? That's proper
that is
unique.
Cool. That is really cool, but I feel like there's too much.
There seems to be a lot going on, like you say.
Yeah,
But
but that stood out.
is very cool.
many of these high-rises are condos. But with the water and the mountains and the way everything is tightly packed right downtown, I really like Vancouver's skyline. But not quite as nice as the best one in Canada,
That is
Toronto.
pretty.
This might very well be the most rapidly changing
But like
skyline
Yeah,
on Earth.
definitely the
There
pictures
are a
at night.
double-digit
definitely make
number of
difference.
high-rises currently going up in downtown Toronto, and it's quite possible that within the next few decades, Toronto will have the most skyscrapers in the world.
Oh, wow.
But as it stands
Wow.
right now, it still is a very impressive skyline for Canada's largest city. The toughest decision I had for this video was where to put Chicago versus Toronto.
Okay.
I think they'll be flip-flopped in 10 years, but for right now, I think Chicago's is a little bit better.
Yeah,
Not
Chicago's always
only
had a
is the
good one.
cluster really tight, but there's also some seriously tall skyscrapers there as well. We all know the Willis Tower, although people still call it the Sears Tower.
Yeah.
But that's just one of many tall high-rises in Chicago, and it's really cool to just walk around downtown and be surrounded by
I like
all
it.
these
That's
tall
pretty.
skyscrapers.
Mm.
So we all know who's going to be number one, and I know folks from Chicago will often say their
What do you think is number one?
I think it might be
Jersey.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Boy, yeah, West Virginia suddenly, in the past 4 years, have just shot up a massive
Yeah.
skyline.
I think it might be, you know.
Shout out to West Virginia, by the way. Obviously, it's going to be New
Shout
York.
out to New York because
It's going to be New York.
skyline is the best because of the architecture. They might not have the same number of high-rises or have the big cluster of the super tall ones, but our architecture is better. But
New
there
York
really is
architecture is
nothing
good,
quite
though.
like the skyline of
and
Manhattan.
it's not
it really
like,
is an easy decision.
claustrophobic.
No,
It's like evenly spaced. I feel like
I
it's
think it
good.
can be at times, but like I say it is spread out.
Yeah.
Different areas, isn't it? But there's some mad architecture, there's some old school history in there, there's some new builds
stuff.
which are there like, oh my days, you know what I mean? It's got everything, can it?
Yeah.
For me over Chicago. I think Chicago, Toronto is tough, but New York is clearly much more impressive than Chicago's. It doesn't even matter whether you're talking downtown or midtown, it's still the best. And you really get a sense of scale when you're walking around New York versus Chicago,
there.
just for how long
little
you're walking
pond.
amongst these skyscrapers. It can be a couple of hours. Now, I do prefer the city of Chicago and Toronto
Is
to
that all the
New
people
York,
up
but when
there?
it comes to the skyline,
Yeah.
New York is still the king. So that's my look at the top 25
good, yeah.
skyline.
That was good. There was a few on there actually that I would have moved further up.
Definitely. I kind of think San Francisco was a little bit too high for me personally and stuff like that.
Personal preference, isn't it?
It definitely is. It's what you like. And I imagine going somewhere and experiencing it is going to give you 10 times more of an opinion or an accurate opinion than seeing a picture of it, isn't it?
100%.
Smash that button if you enjoy, guys. Smash that subscribe button as well. We'd seriously appreciate it. And what should we do?
Have a fantastic day.
And let us know your top 3 in the comments below. And we'll see you, legends, in the next one. Peace.